In learning Chumash, particularly a story like Parshat Noach of the Mabul, of the flood, we have to come with the perspective that the stories in Chumash are not, as Rav Reich points out in source number 5, they're not Sefer Histori Chalila, they're not, God forbid, just a historical perspective, but rather Kol Divrei HaTorah Hinam Horaot La'adam. Everything in Chumash is here to teach us a lesson. Therefore, Gam Parasha Zu Chayevet Lilamed Al Yadenu. We also have to learn this Kedei Lilmod Mimeno Orchot Chayim. And looking at the story of the flood, in particular, what were the reasons that led up to the flood? It's not so much just to learn it in order to see what happened to them, but it's imperative for us to learn it, for us to be able to get a sense in our own lives that we shouldn't repeat history, that we shouldn't fall into the same level of depravity that they fell into. And I think one of the things that will strike us in our learning today is that the situation in our world today is very, very reminiscent of the world of the flood. And we need to be able, through the discussions that Mir Hashem we have today, to be able to ask ourselves, each and every one of us, what can we do to at least stop some of this negative effects in harming us and our family, and ultimately to be able to try to save the world one step at a time. I'd like to focus, Emir Hashem, on two very basic ideas today. Not so much chidushim, but just to remind us of that which we know. The first is, what were the causes that led up to the flood? If we take a look at the Chumash itself, at the end of Parshat Breshit in source number 1, we have the story of Lamech, and again, all these stories are here to teach us a lesson, who marries 2 wives, and the children that he has, and the skills, and the different things that his children develop. In source number 2, we have Mamash at the end of Parshat Breshit, very strange section, that the sons of the rulers saw the daughters of man were good, and they took themselves wives from wherever they chose. And Hashem says, my spirit shall not contend evermore concerning man, sees but flesh. His days shall be 120. And we have the Nephilim, and also afterward, when the sons of the rulers would consort with the daughters of man, who would bear to them, they were the mighty, who from old were men of devastation, which is a very strange section and has to be understood. And then we begin in Parshat Noach, where Hashem says, now the earth had become corrupt before God, and the earth had filled with robbery. And God saw the earth, and behold, it was corrupted, for all flesh had corrupted its way upon the earth. And God said to Noach, the end of all flesh has come before me, for the earth is filled with robbery through them, and behold, I'm about to destroy them from the earth. So although we have a sense, we have Lamech taking 2 wives, and we have whoever these giants and rulers are, who are taking women in any way they want, which is clearly this aspect of immorality in terms of Gilui Arayos, of being able to marry whoever one wants. That's clearly one of the stepping stones toward the destruction. And elsewhere within Chumash we find by Dorv Enosh, As Huchal Likro B'Shem Hashem, which in Mefarshim there says means they began to worship idolatry. So we have a sense in Parshat Breshit that we have idolatry, we have indecent relationships, immorality, Gilui Arayos going on. But the Torah only hints to these things. When it comes to our parsha, when the Torah describes Vatishachet haaretz, that the earth has become corrupt, the sin that seems to mark the end of the destruction seems to be Hamas. Hamas, which literally is interpreted as corruption, our rabbis understand as gezel, as robbery. So the 2 questions that we have is, 1, what were the things that led up to eventually it being a world filled with robbery? How do we go from these illicit relations and avodah zarah to robbery. That's question 1. And question 2 is, why is robbery the thing that breaks the straw, that breaks the camel's back? I mean, robbery is bad, don't get me wrong, but would we necessarily say that robbery would be the item that lo nechtam gzar dinam el al hagesel, that the thing that's going to cause the decree to be the grand finale would be robbery? So we have to understand, which is Rav Rice's question in source number 6. He says, what is it about robbery that HaKadosh Baruch Hu put such a great emphasis specifically on this, that because of this, the flood came to the world? So to answer our first question very briefly, and then we'll go back to it almost backwards at the end of the shiur. How do we go from this immoral relationship down to thievery, down to robbery? It's a very interesting essay Rabbi Frand has in source number 9, where he notes, source number 7, he says that America has followed the same course of action or inaction as Noach's generation before the flood. The Torah implies that there was cause